Why should we even go to university? Is university as appealing as it used to be? Is it still as desirable? Recent changes in the federal government's budget require university students to pay more tuition and to pay back their student loans at an earlier stage. And this has resulted in a lot of backlash from university students, calling it unfair and unreasonable, to say the least. On top of that, universities have struggled to retain their students recently, and a study published earlier this year actually found that 1/3 of Australian university students won't even graduate. And so when you take all of this into consideration, have universities lost its appeal? Why should young people even go to university when more money is needed, when more and more people are disliking their experience, and the reality is the employment rate for graduates aren't looking so great right now? For some, like Hannah Bresnahan, universities have lost its appeal, and she's one of many students who, if they could go back in time, would have done things a little bit differently.
I would probably do a gap year, but in the workforce, so push harder straight out of high school to get a proper internship or job. Like at that point, I didn't need to earn more money than what I was, but just push something in where I wanted to be, and at least you could stabilize yourself with that, and then have uni sort of like, oh, I might go, would be better, depending on where you go, would be the way I do it.
For Astrid, she's always dreamed of going to university, and she's loving her experience. But she also recognizes that university isn't for everyone, and she doesn't recommend everyone to go.
I am a firm believer that university is only for people who specifically want to be there. It's their dream and their passion to be in university and to develop their skills even further than what they have at the moment. But I don't believe that university is the only way to achieve that. So you can go to, say, TAFE for a more practical side of knowledge that you might want to gain. My brother, for example, is not suited for university, and I would discourage him from going to university because it's not for him. Yes, university is important and we need people to be in university, but I don't think we need as many people as we have currently in university structures, because it's a little excessive.
Regardless of the stats, the value of a university degree still exists, according to Eddie Reginato, Sydney North's regional manager for the New South Wales Business Chamber. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most important for employability, he rates having a university degree as an 8. However, he says, it's not the only criteria, and employers could easily hire people without a degree if they had the relevant experience. So what should it be? Is the goal to get a university degree, or is it to get experience? For Roberta Ryan, it's actually both.
I don't think it's an either or. Again, I don't think it's an either or. I think that we ought to be enabling internships for undergraduates, and as you know, UTS has a commitment to having every student do a work placement before they graduate, and that's precisely the kind of response that we need to the expectations where students not only have the conceptual, theoretical capability required to be leaders of the future, we also have to enable them to have the kind of workplace skills, the capacity to work with people, understand strategic priorities of businesses, and you can get that through really effective internships and work placements.
However, Hannah Forsyth, author of A History of the Modern Australian University, thinks differently. She's beginning to wonder why we should even go to university. And she says that the answer really depends on who you ask. As to what she thinks on the necessity of a university degree, she says,
I suspect that personal contacts will trump education and that work experience will be key to that. I also suspect that over time, some professions will start to run their own on-the-job training programs as going to university becomes both passé and has so many students in courses that you can't actually teach hands-on skills anymore.
But the reality is none of that has really happened yet. And so what do we do in the meantime? Hannah suggests that university students do 3 things. Number 1, cut down on the paid work and keep that to a minimum. Number 2, do whatever you can to get into the field of work you want to get into, even if it's unpaid internships. And number 3, find what you're passionate about and put everything into it. So, what do you think? Should we still go to university? Is a degree still necessary? Is uni still appealing? Have all the changes turned you off? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear what you have to say. From XYZ, I'm Gilbert.